Hi, my name's Mark Wells, and once again I'm going to talk a little on the FES flower essences, and today I'm going to look at how the FES flower essences can be used to take into account that very strong body-mind connection with people. In my own personal practice over the years, I've always felt that it's really important to look at not just the physical dimension with people, but to look at the mental and the emotional. And I find that most of the diseases, some more obvious than others, always have that strong element of emotion and psychological aspects to the physical presentation. So let's look at a few flower essences from the FES group that touch on that fairly specifically. Fuchsia is a really good one. I mean, in its description, it's said it's very good for psychosomatic type issues. So it can be a little bit more obvious, if you like, the connection. So whenever you can intuitively see, or you can get a sense from your client that behind some of the physical problems they've got, there is sadness, there is grief, there is anger and frustration. Something else is playing a huge part in the development of their symptoms. And you see this with both genders. I have used fuchsia a lot for a lot of the premenstrual syndrome. It's not the only remedy you use, but in that sense, sometimes there's a bit of a build-up. For example, a lady may have had a very stressful month, and things sort of come to a head that few days before menstruation, and as a consequence there's some really strong emotions surfacing, but they're affecting a lot of physiological functions at that time. And fuchsia is a very good one to actually help a person understand and be able to manage better what's going on underneath some of those intense feelings that are emerging. But it's across the board fuchsia. It's one of those great ones where if you think that there's a really strong emotional element that's playing a part in the history of and the recurrence of certain physical problems, have a good look at fuchsia. The next one's Black-Eyed Susan, and Black-Eyed Susan's very good for people who tend to rationalise their emotions away. And what I mean by that is that, they might be, driving in the car or walking down the street, someone does something that's really mindless and careless, and they go to get, I'm a bit frustrated and angry about that, but they go, oh no, that's just those people minding their own business and all that. That's very good and admirable, but at the same token, you have to acknowledge that, that made you a bit angry, and you're entitled to be a bit that. You don't necessarily act on it, but at least feel it. Otherwise, these things go under the rug. They go, you can put them aside, but they will play havoc with your physiology. Black-Eyed Susan, for example, I've given to quite a few people with skin problems, and we often say that skin reflects a bit of your reaction to what's going on around you in your immediate environment. Eczemas and things like this, but particularly in psoriasis, I've given Black-Eyed Susan, and it's helped the person get a greater connection or greater understanding of some of the feelings they're experiencing, and perhaps just sort of not going there or rationalising them away. Black-Eyed Susan can give you penetrating insight. Not necessarily the practitioner, the client themselves can give that person penetrating insight into what it is that's getting under their skin. And I picked psoriasis because often with psoriasis there's a greater disconnect between what's going on that feeling level and that thinking level. And Black-Eyed Susan brings that together a bit so people can actually deal with what it is that may well be getting to them. And I'm not saying that's easy, and it can be confronting. But I tell you, in the way that the positive impact that'll have on the physical expression of the illness and their skin issues is quite dramatic. Another one, Calla Lily. Once again, I want to talk about the hormonal side. Calla Lily, all flowers are basically the genitalia of plants. But Kala Lily, you can see in its signature, represents the male and female. And Kala Lily is about balancing that in a person. How that may well manifest with someone is that, in some of their relationships, they're very assertive and in control, and some of those they're very, repressed, subservient. They need to get a bit of a balance in their life about when to sort of assert and when to just allow things to happen. Now, that can reflect in hormonal issues as well, both male and female. And it's very interesting because Kala Lily is at a time of life, a stage of life, is very important prepubescence. Also, actually, perimenopause as well. But prepubescence, and in a sense, the body is gearing up to, changing the hormonal balance, obviously prepubescence, but it's gearing up to make a statement to the world that I'm a female, I'm a male, and into adulthood as those genders. And Kala Lily, in a sense, helps if there's any confusion there, if there's any lack of clarity within the person at a deeper level. It will reflect in how that gets expressed. And I think in this day and age, with a lot of things, with the gender fluidity, with the sexual orientation and things like this, Kala Lily, and I had experience in practice, can help a person really define who they are, get a sense that's the true me, and then express that out there in life. So it's a great remedy, and as I said, will have an impact on hormonal levels and ultimately a lot of physiological issues that might arise. Fairy Lantern, I'll put a little bit in the same area. Fairy Lantern, if you look at its signature, it's when it's in fully bloom, you look at it and it looks as though it's not quite opening. And that's one of the strong signatures, because Fairy Lantern can be, in its classical use, can be for women that are with very late monarch, or their first periods might come along and then they don't have another period for a year or two. It's very irregular and never really settling into a good rhythm. And what you see on another level, on a deeper level, even a spiritual level, often it might be that particular person, and I'm not just saying females, but I've seen it more often in that. Are they ready to take on the responsibilities of womanhood? Are they ready to do that? And you can see that in their behaviour, how they're, even within their family and things like that. So Fairy Lantern can ultimately have a really powerful effect there to start the ball rolling, get that rhythm, those body rhythms right, and have that positive emotional impact. Dogwood is another one, and dogwood's a great one. And dogwood's sort of when you get shocks or traumas, but it's almost like they become imprinted on you. They become entrenched in your system. I always remember a case I had with one of the first times I ever used that many, many years ago. And a young girl came along and she had this knee problem. She'd been to physios, she's been to osteopaths, she'd been everywhere, she tried every remedy. But this knee problem just kept coming back. Pain, wasn't even sensitive to weather, there was no sort of pattern, but it just kept coming back over and over. Now she came to me for another issue, but that was there too, it was in the background, and she'd sort of given up. And it used to cause her a lot of pain and discomfort. And I gave her dogwood actually for some other things, and we moved through it. She did improve, but she reported that she was having no more knee problems, and it's like something had become entrenched in her system, if you like, on another dimensional level, an energetic level, and dogwood was able to help her release that, and she didn't have that problem again. So it's a very good one, and when people sort of hold on to trauma and become traumatized, but they get on with life, but it stays in there, and dogwood just helps someone release any negativity that's stuck in the system, and it can have implications for so many problems, but often a lot of musculoskeletal issues that are just not budging and not responding to any normal treatments. And finally, I'll look at lotus. Lotus is a great remedy to help people express sometimes their frustration in life. Indirectly, I've often found when people need lotus, there's a bit of liver issue. And if we go into traditional Chinese medicine, if there's frustration, anger, things aren't moving in someone's life, the liver suffers. And lotus can actually indirectly help someone's liver in that way, in that it just helps people to creatively and in an appropriate way release some of that anger and frustration. I remember talking to this lovely, sweet old lady many years ago, and wouldn't ever express anger, wouldn't ever do. She was just such a nice lady, and she very, very spiritual in her own way. And she said, "Oh, Mark, you're talking about SOL." And I said, "What's SOL?" And she goes, "Shit on the liver." Oh, okay, yeah. And I was, and not knowingly, but it was a good, I said that things get stuck in the person, and in their personality, if you like, and they're unable to express stuff, maybe because of their beliefs and things like that. Oh, I shouldn't get angry about that, or I shouldn't do that. Lotus will help them get that out in a creative way. It's not going to help them go and abuse everyone left, right and centre, and it certainly didn't do that to this very nice lady. But she just found creative ways of getting that out of the system. Because as I said, if we don't express some of this stuff, if we just put it in the basket, as one of my clients said, who's putting up with a lot in her life now, and just says, "I'll just put it over in the basket and deal with that later." Well, I wish it was that easy. It will come up, it will emerge, and it will affect the person, and particularly, ultimately, on a physiological level. So I suppose the thing to learn today is that a lot of disease has aspects, if you like, and ailments have aspects on that more subtle level, our psychological and emotional nature. And in flower essences, the FES flower essences, we have great tools to heal on those levels and ultimately have a really positive effect on the physiology and physical problems. Thank you.